They say there was once a man so tall, so impossibly vast, that ships sailed between his legs. His bronze skin gleamed in the sunlight, his gaze stretched far across the Aegean Sea, and when the wind rose, it sang through the seams of his armor like the voice of the gods. This was no mortal, at least, not in the eyes of those who saw him. This was the Colossus of Rhodes, a wonder so great it stood for only a heartbeat in history, yet it has towered in our imagination for more than 2,000 years. But here's the question: could it rise again? Could we, with all our modern engineering and ambition, rebuild one of the most breathtaking monuments the ancient world ever knew? To answer that, we first have to travel back to a time when the island of Rhodes was the glittering jewel of the Mediterranean. The year is 305 BCE, and the islanders have just survived a siege that should have crushed them. The aggressor? Demetrius Poliorcetes, the besieger of cities, a man who brought with him an army of 40,000 and war machines so massive they seemed to scrape the clouds. For a full year, Rhodes held out, their harbors blockaded, their walls battered. And then, by some combination of cunning, diplomacy, and sheer stubborn will, the enemy withdrew. The victory was intoxicating. Rhodes was not merely free, it was triumphant. The spoils of war were staggering: abandoned siege towers, weapons, and the raw materials of conquest left behind. The Rhodians sold the remnants, and with the fortune they gained, they decided to create a monument that would tell the world and the gods that they were unconquerable. They turned to Chairs of Lindos, a master sculptor who had studied under Lysippos, the famed artist who had once crafted a statue of Zeus so large it dwarfed men like ants. Chaerea's commission was almost unthinkable: a statue of the sun god Helios, patron of Rhodes, to be made taller than any sculpture the world had ever seen. For 12 years, the people labored. Imagine it: the steady clang of hammers on bronze, the scent of molten metal in the air, the groan of wooden cranes as blocks of stone and hammered sheets were hoisted higher and higher. The frame of the Colossus rose like a skeleton of iron and rock, an intricate lattice filled with stone blocks to give it weight and strength. Over this, craftsmen fitted bronze plates, each hammered to curve like the muscles of a god. When it was done, the Colossus stood over 100 feet tall, nearly the height of the Statue of Liberty from her feet to her crown. Ancient writers claimed it stood at the harbor, a torch in one hand, a cloak sweeping over its shoulders, its face turned toward the dawn. Whether it really straddled the harbor entrance, as popular imagination later depicted, is doubtful, but there's no question it dominated the skyline. Sailors approaching Rhodes would have seen it gleaming in the sunlight, a beacon of power and pride. For 56 years, it stood unchallenged, and then, disaster. In 226 BCE, an earthquake shook the island. The ground convulsed, walls cracked, and the Colossus groaned. The knees buckled first. The great statue toppled, breaking into pieces that thundered across the city. It lay where it fell, its giant bronze plates glinting in the sun, its hand larger than most men. The Rhodians, fearing the wrath of the gods, chose not to rebuild, and so, for nearly 1,000 years, the ruins of the Colossus lay on the ground, so awe-inspiring that travelers came simply to marvel at its shattered remains. One ancient visitor wrote that few men could clasp their arms around its thumb. Eventually, in the 7th century CE, the broken statue was sold for scrap by invaders, its bronze carted away on the backs of 900 camels. And from that moment on, the Colossus lived only in memory. Which brings us to now. Could it be rebuilt? On the surface, the answer seems obvious. Of course we could. Modern engineering has given us skyscrapers 1,000 feet high, bridges that span impossible distances, and statues like the Spring Temple Buddha in China, which is more than 5 times the height of the Colossus. We have cranes that could lift the weight of its bronze skin in a single afternoon, materials that could weather the centuries, and design software that could calculate every stress point down to the smallest fraction. But rebuilding the Colossus is not just about engineering. It's about meaning. First, there's the question of location. The original stood on the island of Rhodes, But exactly where has been lost to time? Some argue it stood near the Mandraki harbor. Others believe it was inland, perhaps atop a fortress. If we rebuilt it, would we place it where it may have once stood, or in a location better suited for tourism and safety? Then there's the matter of authenticity. The truth is, we have no detailed blueprints of the Colossus. Ancient descriptions are poetic, not technical. Some show Helios holding a torch, others a spear. Some say he wore a crown of sun rays, others depict a bare head. If we rebuilt it, would we aim for a faithful recreation based on our best guesses, or a modern reinterpretation that blends history with contemporary design? And of course, there's the cost. Estimates for rebuilding range from $200 million to over $300 million depending on the scale and materials. That's a staggering price for a monument, even one with the potential to become a world-class attraction. Proponents argue that it would more than pay for itself through tourism, that Rhodes could once again become a place of pilgrimage for travelers who want to stand beneath one of the world's great wonders. Critics counter that such funds could be better spent on infrastructure, preservation of existing heritage, or social programs. But beyond all these practical concerns lies something deeper: the symbolic weight of resurrecting a wonder. To rebuild the Colossus would be to tell the world that human ambition can reach across millennia, that we can take the dreams of the past and forge them anew. It would connect us in a very real way to the people of Rhodes, to the pride they must have felt when their Helios rose against the sky. And perhaps there's another question we must ask ourselves. If we do rebuild it, whose Colossus would it be? Would it be a Greek monument, a global collaboration, a statement of unity, or a symbol of tourism? The answer would shape not just the design, but the spirit of the project. Standing at the harbor of Rhodes today, you see fishing boats bobbing in the sun, medieval fortifications casting shadows over the water, and the gentle roll of the Aegean stretching to the horizon. The air smells of salt and thyme, and if you close your eyes, you can almost feel it. The shadow of something vast passing over you, the imagined gleam of bronze in the sunlight, the deep, almost forgotten pride of a people who defied the impossible. Rebuilding the Colossus would be no small feat. It would take years, countless skilled hands, and a staggering amount of resources. But perhaps the greatest challenge is not physical at all. Perhaps it's the challenge of vision, the ability to dream as boldly as the Rhodians once did. Because in the end, the Colossus was more than bronze and stone. It was a statement. It was the embodiment of resilience, the proof that beauty and defiance can be forged into the same shape. Whether or not we should rebuild it is a matter for debate. But whether we could? Oh yes, we could. The real question is, would it still have the power to make us feel small in the best possible way? To remind us that human hands, when driven by pride and unity, can touch the sky. Thank you for joining me in this journey into one of history's most awe-inspiring wonders. Now I'd love to hear your thoughts. If the Colossus of Rhodes were rebuilt today, would you want it to be a perfect historical reconstruction or a bold modern reinterpretation? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps keep these stories alive.